possibly be? What? Do you mean to say it's recording me? Well, but at least I'm not live. No, certainly not. Bit live. I'm live? No. No, the broadcast couldn't have begun. Could it have? My word. Well, an auspicious beginning to this fourth live broadcast in human in human history. Well, ladies and gentlemen, those of you who are privy to this broadcast, who are part of our little society, number at most 25 persons. We live in a nation of some 17 million persons. And you 25 are the ones who know. And not only are you the only ones who know, but in exchange for this extremely exclusive knowledge, you are obliged to maintain your silence on the subject. You see, so far as the ordinary George or Jane is concerned, this camera is only capable of taking still photographs, stationary photographs. Your average George or Jane is not to be apprised of the fact that actually there are contraptions that look just the same as your average still camera, yet contraptions nevertheless that are capable of taking moving pictures and recording sound, and the kicker of all kickers, of transmitting those pictures, those moving pictures and sounds to homes and to a dispersed audience of people in their living rooms. This sort of thing has all kinds of ramifications which Her Majesty's government, frankly, does not fully understand, and Her Majesty's government feels inclined to study the matter and to anticipate as many of the ramifications as possible. Now, not all of them will be anticipated or preempted before this is made available, but the government wants to figure out as much as it can about how to ensure that when this technology is made widely available, chaos does not ensue, as it very well could if we aren't careful. And chaos already seems to be ensuing, which is one point we'll be going over tonight. But even without this sort of thing being widely available, for all we know, the technology which you are currently enjoying may not be widely available for another decade, another 70 years, until the 1920s or so, or perhaps not even until the 1950s. And that's going to be a century from now. For all we know, it won't even be widely available until then. But in the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, those of you who are amongst our lucky number will be learning the results of today's general election in real time as I learn them. And I am stationed in a telegraph office. Now, in the next room, the telegraphs are coming in rather loudly, I must say. And you see, these telegraphs are being translated from Morse code into English and then sent on slips of paper to me through a pneumatic tube that goes through the wall into this room, and from that tube, from that pneumatic tube, I am receiving transmissions, again, translated telegrams, which tell me immediately as quickly as anyone could learn about election results coming in from all over the country. Now, despite the fact that in certain parts of the country the same party has different colours, overall the national colours of the different parties are as such: orange for the Whigs and the Free Traders and Liberals, red for the Radicals, a aquamarine or turquoise colour for the Peelites, blue for the Conservatives, and green for the Independent Irish Party. I will be showing you a map at the end of today's evening of how the results wound up. And so you will be seeing how a geographical representation of how the country is voting according to those colours, despite the fact that, for instance, the Conservatives actually go by orange in some areas and pink in some other areas. Overall, the Tories are blue, and that's how they will be represented. Let's see, what else? What are the preliminaries to get out of the way? My word. I think that might have been the first result coming in. I'm just waiting for the message in the tube, and let's see, yeah. Ashburton, a radical gain from Whig in Ashburton, so that takes our total tally to 1 for the opposition, although it's a hold for the opposition, but in fact a gain for the Radicals and a loss for the Whigs at the same time. But I am keeping score with this slate here, and the current score is 1-0 for the opposition. The night is young yet, and let's see here. In Huntington, 2 Conservative ministerialists holds. Curiously enough, one of these is for Colonel Jonathan Peel, who is the brother of the late Prime Minister, Sir Robert Peel, and also for Thomas Baring. So that is the situation in Huntington. If I'm not mistaken, may have been Cromwell's old seat many years back. So now we have 2 for the ministerialists and the Conservatives, and 1 for the oppositionists, specifically for the Radicals. And I mentioned that even without these sorts of mass communication technologies being widely available or even known about outside of our very select circle, the fact of the matter is that there is already more than enough chaos to contend with. So, for instance, hang on. Just going to find an example here on the paper. Yes, well, here's an example. So, just last month, on June 15th, the anniversary of the Magna Carta, curiously enough, June 15th, in the year of our Lord, 1852, 1852, Queen Victoria issued a proclamation. The proclamation read the following: whereas, by the Act of Parliament passed in the 10th year of the reign of His Majesty George IV, for the relief of His Majesty's Roman Catholic subjects, it is enacted that no Roman Catholic ecclesiastic nor any member of any of the religious orders, communities, or societies of the Church of Rome, bound by monastic or religious vows, should exercise any of the rites or ceremonies of the Roman Catholic religion, or wear the habits of his order, save within the usual places of worship of the Roman Catholic religion, or in private houses. And whereas it has been represented to us that Roman Catholic ecclesiastics, wearing the habits of their orders, have exercised the rites and ceremonies of the Roman Catholic religion in highways and places of public resort, with many persons of ceremonial dresses, bearing banners and objects or symbols of their worship, in procession of the great scandal and annoyance of large members of our people, and to the manifest danger of the public peace, and whereas it has been represented to us that such violation of the law has been committed near places of public worship during the time of divine service, and in such a manner as to disturb the congregations assembled therein, we have therefore thought it our bounden duty, by and with the advice of our Privy Council, to issue this our royal proclamation, solemnly warning that all those whom it may concern, that whilst that we are resolved to protect our Roman Catholic subjects in the undisturbed enjoyment of their legal rights and religious freedom, we are determined to prevent and repress the commission of all such offences as aforesaid, whereby the offenders may draw upon themselves the punishments in attending the violation of the laws, and the peace and security of our dominions may be endangered. Now, there you have it. That was the proclamation of Her Majesty the Queen. And just from June the 15th. And on Tuesday, July the 6th, the following shocking event took place. I can just find it here. Yes. The Irish and English labouring population of Stockport, jealous of each other on religious and social grounds, came into furious collision on Tuesday with disastrous consequences. The feud is of some standing, but the present outcome seems to have arisen out of the royal proclamation against Roman Catholic processions, or out of the proceedings consequent on it. It has been the custom of the Roman Catholics of Stockport, who number nearly 1/4 of the 50,000 inhabitants, to have a procession of the children of their charity schools at this season of the year. Not a party or sectarian demonstration, but a display of the results of the educational zeal of the Roman Catholics. When the royal proclamation appeared, the lower classes of Protestants hailed it as a sectarian triumph, and boasted they would have the proclamation enforced in the case of the young red-necked scholars, as they termed the Roman Catholic children. The Romanists held that the meeting of scholars was not a procession of the sort interdicted, and they published their resolve to make their demonstration as usual. There was high excitement on the subject, and it is said that the authorities thought of preventing the school gathering, but when the day came, Sunday, the Protestants seemed less belligerent, and the schools were allowed to make their procession without interruption. There was a studious avoidance of any sort of Catholic insignia, and The priests appeared in their plain attire. On Monday, a few casual fights, such as commonly occur at Stockport on the Monday afternoon, took an international and religious character. Englishmen and Irishmen happened to be engaged, and the seconders of the combatants got into conflicts which the police stopped with difficulty. But the night passed tranquilly, and no evil was expected on Tuesday. On Tuesday evening, the fights were renewed suddenly in several places at once, and they were fierce, and so many combatants engaged in them that the police could not repress them. Some anxiety had been felt during the middle of the day by the Roman Catholic priests, and warnings had been given by them to the mayor, some preparations made to increase the small police force, consisting of only 10 men by a staff of assistant constables. The various detached fights had merged in a general battle between the Roman Catholic and Protestant lowest orders. The Protestants gained the upper hand and drove their opponents first into their houses and then proceeded to wreck their houses and the Roman Catholic chapels. By great efforts, very bravely and skillfully persevered, in Mr. Sadler, the chief constable managed to hold the chief bodies of the rioters in check until the mayor and magistrates had assembled and sworn in some hundreds of special constables. A shocking occurrence, and far from the only one. Now, although that was related to sectarian matters of faith, other conflicts related to sectarian matters of politics have been rather widespread and may only intensify as the general election continues. More on that shortly. But first, oh, this is a particularly long transmission. Yes. Here we go. We have a number of telegrams that have just come in, and I will read all of them. A very large number, actually. Let's see. So, first of all, Chippenham, 2 Conservative holds for Joseph Neild and George Buldero. So 2 holds for the Conservative ministerialists. So we have, that takes us to 4 for the Conservatives. And let's see here. In Monmouth City, in Wales, a Conservative ministerialist, Cruchaw Bailey, has been elected. So that's another one for the Conservatives. And I thought that tonight we were mainly hearing from Whig and Radical constituencies. That's what I was told. But these are holds. It's important to note. If these were gains, that would suggest that there is a shift towards the Tories. Holds don't suggest a shift in either direction, but certainly there have been a number of Conservative holds so far. So good news for Lord Derby, the Prime Minister. Let's see, Oxford City, 1 Whig opposition hold, Loston, and 1 Radical opposition hold, Wood. So, Oxford City takes us to 5 for the ministerialists and 3 for the opposition. In Richmond, in Yorkshire, 2 Whig opposition holds, H. Rich, in Richmond, H. Rich and M. Withall, H. Rich and M. Rivell, holding for the Whigs, which, let's see, hang on, yeah, just putting everything in order. That takes the Whigs, and the opposition generally, 2, 5. So now the opposition is tied with the ministerialists and the Conservatives. Ashton under Lynn, radical hold, and a hold for opposition Charles Hindley. Stop. Well, and now for the first time in the evening, there are more members of the opposition in the next parliament than members of the government, and members supporting the government. And well, we have another 5 results that have just entered the pneumatic tube. Here we go. In Chester, 2 Whig holds and holds for the opposition, Bill Grosvenor and W.O. Stanley. Stop. So, I'm starting to see what they meant by there being a disproportionate number of Whig constituencies. Let's see here. Well, we'll see anyhow. In Portsmouth, 2 Whig holds, Baring and Monk. Stop. Baring and Monk, excuse me. So that takes us to... And suddenly the balance of power seems to be shifting, does it not? Now that the oppositionists have 10 to the 5 elected for the ministerialists. Let us see here. And in Birmingham, 2 radical holds for the opposition, Muntz and Schofield. Well, takes the opposition to 12. Oh, my word. Slate almost collapsed. 12 for the opposition, 5 for the ministerialists. Horsham, 1 Conservative gain. William R.S. Fitzgerald, ministerialists. Now, I think that's important because, you see, as I said, holds just say that the status quo is prevailing and the composition of Parliament is not changing. However, gains suggest otherwise. I just added a couple of categories to the slate. Gains and losses for both factions, both of the primary factions in Parliament, those supporting the ministry of Earl Derby and those who would like to support a ministry led perhaps by Lord Russell. Let's see, so that was Horsham. And Lewes, 1 Peelite oppositionist hold and 1 Whig oppositionist hold. Fitzroy is the Peelite and Brand is the Whig. Well, as far as this chartboard is concerned, that's 2 more for the oppositionists. Taking that total number to 14. 14 to 6. But remember, 14 holds, 6 including 1 gain. So on other nights, when we are, when we are receiving results from more conservative bastions, what really counts in the final tally most heavily are the gains and the losses, incidentally. In Thirsk, one conservative ministerialist hold named Galway. So that takes us to 7 for the ministerialists. Still 2-1 in favour of the opposition. And let's see, we're awaiting other transmissions. Here we go. Number of key results may just have come in. Let us see. They'll be translating it now, sending it down the pneumatic tube. And there we go. In Colne, near Chippenham, Whig hold for the opposition, Lord Shelburne. Well, in Wenlock, 2 conservative ministerialist holds. Both Gaskell and Forrester hold on to their seats in Wenlock. This is the score, yeah. Yes. And that's not all. In Tamworth, Peel, the son of the Prime Minister, we mentioned Colonel Jonathan Peel, the brother of the Prime Minister. This is a son of the Prime Minister, and yet also aligned with the ministry and not with the Peelite faction, curiously enough. One wonders about how the late Prime Minister's domestic affairs were conducted. Yeah. Spurious comment? Yes, perhaps. It's just somewhat remarkable that his own son. Anyway, so Tamworth, Peel takes us to 10 for the ministerialists. And Salford, 1 hold for the radicals and also for the opposition. So Salford. In the Devizes, 2 conservative ministerialist holds, George Heneage and John Gladstone, brother of William Gladstone. And again, it's a very curious pattern we see in the, John Gladstone, brother of William Gladstone. William Gladstone is associated with the Peelites, and yet his brother sticks with the ministry. Is this a common thing for Peelites, not to get along with their family members? They are a factious crew, are they not? I wonder. Right, so what that does is takes the ministerialists to 12. And, in Coventry, 2 opposition holds. 1 hold for Whig Edward Ellis, and 1 hold for Radical Charles Geach. What a name, Charles Geach. In Kincardine, 1 conservative ministerialist hold, Arbuthnot. So 1 conservative ministerialist hold for Arbuthnot in Kincardine in Scotland. 13. Poor tally mark, I confess. And let's see here. That's everything from the pneumatic tube so far. And hold on. Let's see. In Marylebone, London, 2 Whig opposition holds for Stewart and Hall. So, and hang on. Let's see here, and wait a second. Hold on. I just made a little error. Those 2 holds were for the oppositionists, which means that they certainly shouldn't have been counted for the ministry. Excuse me. And here we go. So 13 for the ministry and 20 for the opposition. And I've also just received another transmission telling me that there are 2 more Whig holds, although it doesn't say where. Sloppy job on whoever sent that out, but 2 other Whig holds. I'll investigate that, but it sounds as if this is the final score. 22 for the opposition to only 13 for the ministry. That is the score, and that is the score for day 1. Because actually, this election is going to take about 3 weeks for us to complete, starting today on July 7th. It's scheduled to end around July 31st. And there are a few other numbers that are going to be coming in. We're crunching the numbers from the results we have already received, but I suppose that the most important number of the evening is also the smallest. 1 gain for the ministry and 1 loss for the opposition. That is what will count in the final analysis. Once we have looked at other strongholds, Conservative, Peelite, Whig, Radical, on days when the strongholds are predominantly Conservative and days when the strongholds are predominantly Peelite or Radical or so on and so forth, or Irish, Independent and so on. At the end of the day, the gains and the losses are what tell us what the trend may well be, although it's a very small sample to judge from, certainly. Hold on. Well, something just went in through the pneumatic tube. The top line numbers on who got the most votes. It's less important, really, than who got the most seats, but here we are. The Peelites received 4,537 votes today. In other words, about 6.83% of the total vote. The Conservatives received 16,266 votes today, or 24.48 out of every 100. In other words, 24.48% for the Conservatives. The Whigs received 34.1 out of every 100, 34.1%, or 22,659 votes. The Radicals received 33.76% of the vote, or 22,432 votes. And the Chartists, who are far more radical than the Radicals, received 541 votes, or 0.81%. And if I'm not mistaken, yes, I'm not mistaken, the Radicals actually lost their only seat in Parliament, I believe in Warwick, somewhere in the Warwick area. That was something I was just informed of. So, that's the situation with that. And I'm just marking up the map here. And, yes. Oh, here we go. This is the current map of the election results, and I'll show you in a way where you can see the little specks. And really, at this point, we only have 13 and 22. We only have 35 of the constituencies of the seats in as of tonight, out of 654. So a very small share overall, and that's why everywhere on this map seems to be white, blank, unfilled in. But you can see where we do know, and you can see everywhere from Kincardine to Thirsk and Richmond and so on, and Oxford, and etc. Those weren't precise pointings. I wasn't precisely pointing at the situation, but anyway, there you have it. This is the geographical representation of the result. This is the numerical representation of the results that matter. A heavily Whiggish and radical selection of seats, but there you have the state of play as it stands at this moment. Thank you for watching. This has been a pleasure to broadcast to you. Good night, and wait, there's more? What? No, not results, but you mean to say there's anything more for me to talk about? Oh, leading. All right. Just given this sheet of paper, not a pneumatic transmission, but just a sheet of paper on who's leading in London. There are 5 candidates in London: Russell, Lord Russell, Rothschild, Masterman, Duke, and Crawford. And currently, the tally stands. There are 4 seats and 5 candidates. So only one of those is going to be the loser. It's really a question of who's going to be the one loser, not who's going to be the. Well, anyway, as it stands, Russell is on 2,092 votes. Rothschild, 1,721. Masterman, the only Conservative of the group, on 2,188. Duke, 2,023. Crawford, 1,276. So, seems to be a race between Rothschild and Crawford on who's going to lose at this point. But Crawford's in the lead for being the candidate most likely to lose of the 5 candidates. So what that would mean would be 3 Whigs and 1 Conservative in the lead if the trend holds. 1 Conservative hold and 3 Whig holds if the trend stays the same. In Lambeth, Middlesex, there are 703 votes for Williams, 628 for Wilkinson, and 518 for Deoncore. Oh wait, that was earlier in the day. At this point, 2,380 for Wilkinson, 2,306 for Deoncore, and 2,097 for Williams. 2 seats, 3 candidates. Williams seems to be headed to lose, and Deoncore is a Whig. Williams and Wilkinson are both radicals. There are no Conservative options in this race. In Tower Hamlets, Butler, Clay, Thompson, Ayrton, Newton, all 5 of the candidates are radical candidates. As was really a personal popularity contest. As it stands, Butler has 3,311 votes, Clay 3,200, Thompson 2,840, Ayrton 1,533, and Newton 426. So, not very good news for Newton, certainly not, or Ayrton for that matter, or even Thompson. Seems to be not quite making the cut as it stands. And in Greenwich, total is Chamber, Peter Rolt is Conservative, and the other 3 candidates are not Conservatives. One is radical. I'm not sure exactly what faction within the opposition the other 3 stand in. But Chambers leads with 1,871 votes. Peter Rolt, Conservative, at 1,810 votes. This means that the Whig Houston Stewart, who's on at 1,589 votes, is in danger of losing his seat to Conservative Rolt, so potentially another gain for the ministerialists in Greenwich. That's the headline there, the top line part of the story. And Windsor, Grenfell is on 159 votes. Ricardo, Samson Ricardo, related to the famous economist, 152 votes. Wellesley, Lord Charles Wellesley, second son of the Duke of Wellington, on 142 votes, and Captain Thomas Bulkeley on 60 votes. So that is the current situation in Windsor, and there are 2 seats there. So currently what this means, in other words, is that Grenfell and Ricardo are in the lead, and they are both Whigs. Wellesley is Conservative. So Wellesley is only 10 votes away from Ricardo. So it's a very slim lead indeed. But we will have to see how that close horse race winds up in the end. And, well, that covers it for the evening, at any rate. We can keep going into who's leading and so on, but I'm told that we cannot afford to keep the broadcast going. It is expensive. Every second counts in this new business. So you know the key numbers at this point, and I'll keep you apprised again tomorrow on July the 8th, 1852. But for now, I must sign out. Thank you for watching. This has been my 4th broadcast. Good evening.